Here we go.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Spartan 117. Welcome to Quality Time.
Start your recording.
The KO Koala Entertainment Podcast. Anthony and Skylar will take it from here. Master Chief, out.
Welcome to Quality Time, the KO Koala Entertainment Podcast. My name is Anthony Nicolosi.
And I'm Skylar Sokol.
Just dodged a bullet, a cat bullet.
I mean, sort of. You definitely did the intro like 10 seconds after the intro ended, but I wasn't
really?
about to play it again, so we're all good.
If you're missing the Skylar's cat Naoki is attacking him currently live on stream. We stream our podcast every week on Twitch. You are missing out.
Usually on Monday at 8:30 Eastern, but today is a special Thursday late evening podcast.
Things have been a little funky for us podcast schedule wise last few weeks. A lot going on, but yes, usually Monday 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, Skylar, we usually on Mondays 8:30 p.m. Eastern, or not usually, frequently we discuss game lenses.
Yes. Written by your self-proclaimed best friend, Jesse
Schell.
Who
puts out some really funny tweets, I must add.
Really? Do you have any? Do you have one you could give us real quick?
I will look it up. How about?
And then by the end of the podcast, I need a Jesse Schell tweet if they're that good.
He's got that nice mix of dad game designer humor.
That's 100% what I would have guessed. I was gonna say it has to be dad humor if it's because he can't be that young.
No, he's a really good soul. I can tell. Unlike us. Unlike me.
I don't know who you're talking
and Josh.
About. And Noki.
Yeah, Noki's definitely the one. Okay, right on.
So yeah, what are we talking about?
The latest. Okay.
Oh, Jesse
the latest
tweet?
ones. I do have the tweet, but I'll send it at the end. The latest tweet we're going to talk about. The latest lens. Smooth as fuck intro.
Going great so far.
Is basically animals and how we're all animals and how we all can enjoy a good animal time. More specifically, the lens of primality.
Primality. I feel like you have to say that word in some badass way every time you say it.
Primality.
It's a cool word. I like it.
It does. Yeah, I think it's got that, the ality, the fatality to it.
It's true. Primality.
Finish him. Okay, I'm going too far. So in the book, Jesse says that we've talked previously about juiciness, things feeling juicy. When you are when you're using certain UIs on phones, especially that's an easy way that some feel just juicy, satisfying to use, great feedback, really kind of almost visceral feedback.
For you, yes. I don't know if the world agrees, but you definitely get juicy with your interfaces.
I just really appreciate good juicy menus.
Now, I will tell you, there is actually, I'll save this for once you explain what the lens is, because I didn't think it related, but what I was about to say definitely relates. So give us a little brief. Is there a Jesse Schell explanation for what this lens is?
Well, so the reason why I bring up touch interfaces is because it's actually the way he introduces the notion of primality. He says one kind of interface that tends to be associated with juicy fun, is the touch interface on phones and tablets. Touch interfaces have done a lot to change the world of gaming, yes. But why? The obvious answer is because they're intuitive, he says, but that's really a pretty vaporous answer, since the definition of intuitive is technically easy to understand. So the question becomes, why is it that touch interfaces are so easy to understand? And the answer is this: they are primal. Until the advent of touch computing, every computer interface took the form of tool use. I would interact with some physical object, keyboard, mouse, button, panel, punch card, etc., and some remote, not near my finger response would take place. Gradually, like with all tools, we learn how they work and become used to them, but tool use is not primal, by which I mean pre-human. Humans started using tools about 3 million years ago. I'm quoting here, Jesse. which is a pretty good run, but still animals have been touching things like for 300 to 400 million years. So our brains, of course, are evolved from those brains. So when you think about the 3-layer structure of the human brain, it becomes clear. The lowest skill level reptilian, if you will, section of the brain is able to process touch, but tool use probably requires help from the neocortex, our more rational thinking part of our brain.
That makes
so
sense.
when you think of so when you think of it that way, he says it's obvious why touch is more intuitive than using a mouse or game controller. But then, of course, it raises a broader question topic of this podcast. What parts of games, maybe the game we're making, games we've played, are primal, and what parts require higher brain functions? It seems certain that the more you can engage and involve the primal parts of the brain, the more intuitive and powerful your gameplay will feel, especially I'll add to a broader audience, which helps to explain why so many games he uses the example contain elements like you have to gather fruit-like items. You have to fight a threatening enemy. You have to find your way through an unfamiliar environment. These things are sort of somehow prime. We all, regardless of culture and stuff, can relate to it as people. So, yes. So that's more or less the notion of primality, right? Like that we're discussing. I think this will be an interesting conversation because I generally feel that when you talk about games, it is usually usually the not primal things that really intrigue you about a game, right? The systems that are available for the games that you can think about and make decisions on, and strategies you can build.
Yeah. And ironically, I was about to say, I think the things that you look for the most in the game are the most primal things, and that you love the primal parts of games, and that's the thing that really excites you about games. It lets you get back to your roots of like that time you killed that snake.
Yes. I totally agree. We can return to there in a second. Although I was going to say, you love rhythm games, which I feel have a high degree of primality.
Now let me give you this. This was my thought before you explained primality. So because you were talking about touch interfaces, and I've recently had some discussions with people at experiences at the arcade because a new game got added there. It's called Reflect Beat. It's a completely touch screen based rhythm game. There's no buttons. Everything happens on a touch screen. There's like things that fly down. You just have to tap the touchscreen, almost like you're playing a rhythm game on your phone, just it's bigger. And I gotta tell you, it is significantly less satisfying than playing a rhythm game that has buttons. So I even would say that I'm going a step past the touch interface primality to wanting like the actual tactile feedback of pressing something, which is I would say even more primal than just like a touch interface.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so I've had that experience recently, and that is a kind of primality I really like. And maybe it's because I play rhythm games for like the flow state, right? I play rhythm games for like the it's like almost like my mindfulness like my meditation almost, right? Like I play rhythm games to go into the focus mode and just play and just like feel the music and all of that, right? And in that kind of environment, I think primality makes sense, because I think primality is what taps us in the most to like those like deep mental states that are just like calm or flow or whatever, right? Like meditation is very similar. Like meditation is just about breathing and just like calming down your rational brain and just like invoking your primal aspect of just like being there and existing and breathing. And I think that's a similar experience for me with rhythm games. So maybe that's why with rhythm games I like the primality. But when I'm going into a game because I want to like fuck someone's brain up, you know, I want that complex.
It needs
shit.
those systems, available to be able to execute such things.
Totally.
Yeah, and we've talked about to what you were saying about what I generally enjoy in games, like the games I like to play. So, before I say this, I feel there's a strong correlation between primality, this notion of the lens of primality, and the emotional design, the emotional design parameters that Don Norman calls out, where he breaks down kind of the three categories of emotional design into visceral reactions, behavioral reactions, and reflective. And I feel like primality, there's a lot that like a visceral reaction to things like hits that primal kind of level to me.
Sure.
And yeah, I guess this also gets into like what you expect and what you want out of your games. But we've talked about before, the way I usually treat the time I spend playing a game is like relaxation time, whatever. And the games I play, Rocket League, Halo, or whatever, they're like it's that kind of flow state.
Yeah, I think you look for that a lot too. And even what's most interesting to me is even in games I've watched you play that have a limited amount of primality, you latch on to the primality parts of those games and enjoy those parts like significantly more. Like Hades, for example, right? You didn't give a shit about all the like systems and stuff and decisions and thinking thoroughly about those. You just wanted to fucking smack shit. That's the primal part of that game, right? And that's what you wanted to do. So even in games that aren't like fully primality focused, like Rocket League, I think is an example of a game that's pretty much almost all primality, except for maybe the meta strategy of like a team sport. Even in Hades, right, which has a lot of extra stuff, you were all about the primality.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the thing that I found most satisfying was the dash bow stuff. Yeah, no, it's true.
No, and actually, you know what the best example of your love of primality is that just came to my mind? Do you want to tell the people about how you capitalize letters on your keyboard?
So to capitalize letters on my keyboard, I press the caps lock button and type and then hit the caps lock button again. Now, the thing is, people... I'm as a software engineer, I don't think I've met any coworker who does that.
I don't think I've met a human in the world who's done that. Who does that?
But it is so much more fun to toggle it. I always tell them.
This is the primality. You get to hit more buttons, right?
I do. Yeah. I honestly was thinking about this when, like a couple days ago. I'm not sure if I would have liked computer science and software engineering if I didn't love typing. Typing is fucking fun.
That the actual activity of typing, ignoring what you're typing, is fun to you and satisfying to you. Yeah, very.
I don't know if you ever do this, but like frequently, I'll just like hit new and I'll just hit keys.
I mean, I have enjoyed like going to like Type Racer and like the typing speed sort of games. Have you ever done Type Racer?
I love those games.
That I do find really fun. And like sometimes when I'm typing, I do like find myself satisfied by it. I think it is very fun. Like it is cool tactile activity, right? It's like especially with the mechanical keyboard.
The
with like
nice.
It's fun. The clicking and all. Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Now talking about keyboards and stuff. One thing I was thinking about regarding this was how I recently, in my quest of trying to get better at first-person shooters on keyboard and mouse, one of the things I have said multiple times is that the right hand feels better on a mouse, than a joystick on a controller. But for me, the left hand feels better on a controller. And I was thinking about it. I think I'm not sure if this is just me being used to controllers or whatever, but for some kinds of movements with controllers, with some kinds of movements that you might want to do, especially in like 3D space, a joystick feels more intuitive moving the character than kind of interpolating WAS like.
I think you're totally right. I think the joystick control method is a way more like primal sort of method, intuitive method for controlling a character, right? You just push it in the direction and you go there, and that's sort of what you do in life anyway, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, it's similar to how you're moving, and just like in real life, right? If you want to like move your hand from here to here, you have to joystick all the way across. But like if you it's not like on first-person shooter, right, with a mouse and keyboard where you can just like snap to a position. You can't really do that easily in real life. That's like a very hard thing to do in real life. So I could totally see how a joystick, even the annoying parts of it, are more primal and intuitive.
Yeah. So it's something that's really hard for me to, I don't know, consolidate and be okay with when I play the first person shooters. The left hand really bothers me, but the right hand does. I don't know. It's that brain. I think it's functionally right. Like you're just like trying to move your hand in a way like where your eye wants it. I don't know. There's something more intuitive about the mouse than the right joystick on controllers.
Now, I think it's totally possible. Now, granted, the issue is you would be lacking buttons, but I would love to see a setup where you like got like a fight stick or something, like I don't know where mine is, but the ones with the big joystick that you can use with one hand, and you just like put that on your desk, you mapped your movement to that, and then you played with mouse on the other. I want to see that set. I mean, the only thing you'd be lacking is the buttons that you get from the keyboard, right? So you would need buttons either on the joystick or more buttons on the mouse, or foot pedals.
Has
foot pedals.
I wouldn't need pedals. Me needing paddles is a workaround for really the right thumbstick.
I meant pedals.
Oh, pedals.
Like if you needed extra buttons, you could use your feet, is what I was saying.
That's interesting idea.
People do that actually in some gamers for specific games, and a lot of streamers actually use foot pedals to change their stuff. Sure. Anyway, we're way off topic, but
no. Well, yeah. What I was saying is Razer does have that like little mini left hand gizmo that has the keys. It has like WASD and it has a thumbstick.
Oh, I remember that thing. Yeah, maybe you should try it.
I would if it wasn't $140 or whatever.
Well, one day maybe we can get someone to buy it for us.
One day I'm just like whatever, I'll do that.
Or we can get Razer to buy it for us if you're gonna be the poster child.
They better start sending me free stuff, or I'm going to keep comparing them to Tilted Nation's superiorly priced.
Right. Anyway, so I'm just trying to think like what one thing that is interesting that I feel like is primal in some ways, but is I guess more tool use is puzzle games, right? This is something that you really dislike in general. I think because when we talk about primality, we're talking about the reptile brain, right? Like obviously primal humans solved puzzles, but that's tool use. Like, so are puzzle games the least primal of all games?
In a way, they feel like that. I feel like the best. Like, this is kind of what the emotional design gets to with the visceral, behavioral, and reflective components, where behavioral is like, this is still fundamentally something emotional at an emotional level, not really cognitive, but it's like being able to evaluate whether a tool or thing available to you is going to help you with what you're trying to do and like how to use it and stuff. Something very like subconscious though. Like, you know what I don't know. I feel like the puzzle games I enjoy the most is where they have they still get past that reptilian brain, but they acknowledge that the reptilian brain is there and they feed it while also having that higher pathway, if you will.
Yeah.
Those are
no, that's fair.
I'm trying to think.
Another genre game I'm thinking about from considering primality is RTS genre, the real-time strategy genre, the StarCrafts of the world, right? That's also one of the least primal games, right? Like almost none of the actions you are doing in the game are primal at all. But, and I think this is really interesting, this gets back to your typing is fun because RTS games are the most notorious games for players having high APM, doing a lot of actions at the same time, and that means they're doing a lot of clicking and a lot of keyboard stuff. And I bet you a lot of those players find just that action very satisfying, like we find typing satisfying. So maybe that's where they're getting their primality from that game, which has literally none in the actual design of the game.
Yeah, I mean that when you kind of grok using the words of Ralph Koster. Right? Theory of fun.
Yes.
When you grok something and you really absorb it and it becomes sort of second nature and reactionary to you when you do stuff, I feel like those kinds of considerations are like if you're designing Dota or if you're designing a MOBA like that, you know that there's going to be that upfront. Even if you're designing Rocket League, I'm thinking Halo 5 had this for me, this dynamic of what's available to you, the mechanic subset and stuff, it's kind of overwhelming at first. You have to sort of understand it, learn it, and get comfortable. But when you get comfortable, it becomes really primally satisfying to execute, you know?
Once you have the muscle memory down kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's something you maybe consider when you're doing the design. Like, how does it feel to play this game? at various points, right? When I just started, but what does it feel like after 100 hours? And what does it
Right.
feel like after 1,000
Especially if
hours,
you're
you know?
making a multiplayer game, right? Or a game that you expect
Right.
people to play for a very long time. But I think even in like single player experiences, this is a consideration, right? Like, how does the game feel when you first start playing versus when you're like, 10 hours in, if it's like a 12-hour
Yep.
game or whatever, right? It's going to feel significantly different.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I think that the best ones, like the ones I'm thinking, like Rocket League and Halo 5, had depth there. And they when I was playing Halo 5 real all the time, when it first launched, I would be like just sitting there doing the motions of like the paddles,
Right.
Like I just like sit there and like do this because that was like how you hit the paddles in order to do the thrust slide, and you were doing that shit all over the map, So anyway, yes.
That's awesome.
Now one thing maybe last thing.
Last point. Bring it on.
One thing that Jesse brings up that also is brought up in the Save the Cat book that we've brought up a few times, which is like a more about writing movies, for Hollywood, is that these primal notions reach lots of different kinds of people in different cultures and different environments because we somehow relate to them all as humans. Like, doesn't matter where you grew up or what scenario, like being in a small room and a monster coming in scares everybody. You know what I mean? Like, makes you all like looking for an exit and stuff. It's animalistically simple, However, I feel like, in a way, while that is a reason why a lot of times we maybe, especially viscerally, feel compelled to check something out more or whatever, explosions go boom, monster scary, blah, blah, like stuff like that. I feel like at the same time, especially in big budget productions, people don't want to stray too much from them. And then in more creative endeavors, people almost see it as like a weakness to stay too close to them. You know what I mean?
Totally. Something we've talked about before for sure. Yeah, that like the safe place to be is with more primality because that's going to, appeal to a wider audience. So it's less risky. Totally true. That's a really interesting statement, right? You don't see like these like really obscure, like high art form indie games caring as much about primality necessarily. Although I would argue that Journey, for example, is like one of the more primal games that's ever been made. Like there's no dialogue. You're literally just running around grabbing stuff, like exploring an unfamiliar environment, right? So who knows?
I maybe the question there is, or the observation there is, I personally don't feel like it's a weakness in a creative intent, if you will, or creative design, if primal elements are recognized and what's the word? People and developers strive for them.
Okay,
I just feel like it's something that reaches all of us, and that it's an important part of a solid experience. I don't know. That's like what I'm looking for in my games. So maybe that's why I'm saying that. But I don't know. I just don't feel like Ori, for example, or Cuphead were games that I don't know if I felt like they had enough primal elements to get me interested into playing them, that I've played similar games in those genres that I wasn't interested in. Strong visceral reactions in both of those.
Totally. And this all gets back to like the toy and whether the toy is fun, and playing with toys is a very sort of primal thing as well. So anyway,
primal is good.
Primality, is it good? You guys tell us. Let us know. But before we tell you where you can let us know, we got to answer a patron question.
Yes. Yeah, and Potatoes got mad at us because he said he asked one that we didn't answer.
So we're going to do that one then, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to read it?
Is it? Oh my God, it's this one. Okay, yeah.
Hey, this is. He said, hey, this is I Got Your Potatoes. I'm literally reading this verbatim. I've been a fan since the beginning and been wanting to get into game development. So my question for you guys is, why is C++ the preferred language for game development at bramoala?
All right.
So cool.
Question one, do you think C++ is the preferred language for game development?
So far, everything I've learned and read and blah 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 does seem to be the case that
Agreed.
C++ is the preferred.
It seems like the
game
most
development
the
language.
best as far as like optimization goes. It gives you the most flexibility for optimization. It's just a very flexible language that can do a lot of things. I mean, it might have a higher learning curve than some other languages that you could potentially develop a game in, but I mean, that's why we have Blueprint, right, in Unreal to like circumvent that. But for someone who really wants to like get into the nitty-gritty, C++ is basically the only way to go. And I mean, you've been working with Unity a lot lately and C#. How have you felt about C#? Because I remember hating C#. It just felt like bad Java, and Java's already like kind of bad.
Don't like Java.
I don't mind
Yeah.
Java, but like it felt like Java that I do mind.
I mean, to simplify this for people who aren't familiar with, software engineering and stuff, the reason why C++, in my opinion, is so prevalent, and I think this is the way most people would answer this, is that think of like the code, C++ code being able to directly talk to like hardware, right? To like the chips and memory layout of your computer, right? Like C++ can do that. With the other ones, imagine there's a layer. There's like an abstraction layer that those instructions need to pass through before getting there. One big problem in that scenario is that inherently introduces another layer, more processing, less performant,
Yeah.
So C++ lets you be as it can be
Direct.
dangerous, like Skylar's saying. Like gives you all the tools you need to like shoot both of your fucking legs off all the time. You need to. With great power comes great responsibility, but at the same time, it also has a lot of the tools that also give you the high level abstractions in your code. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. But I agree with Skylar. A lot of people do find it very intimidating and kind of overwhelming. Lots of things you need to worry about when you're doing C++ that you don't need to worry about in other languages and stuff. So
Now
my experience with C#, just for what
that's
it's
what I
worth,
wanna
is
hear.
like, I like using C# as a language, strictly writing code in it. But did you know that Unity has, like, for every object in Unity, there's a C# equivalent that maps to a C++ equivalent in memory?
What?
And not only
And
that,
you
but
can't touch the C++ part, right?
So I don't know. I
In
haven't
theory,
tried
you
yet.
can't, at least.
I will say you can't, but
Yeah.
basically the object has two halves to it. One part in C++, one in C#. Somehow they talk to each other. Now, there's these situations you get to in Unity where like you can call destroy on the C# object, but what that does is clears the memory for the C++ object, but the C# object is still there because of C# garbage collection. It's technically going to still hang around until all references to it
Because it's
are
like
gone.
because of like Java, right? Because that's
Yeah.
how Java garbage collection works, right?
So anyway,
That's
I
crazy.
am so grateful.
That's
I don't have to worry about fucking
madness.
memory bugs like that, dude.
No, and
Anyway.
and trust me, we've had to worry about memory bugs in our game, so it's good that we avoid those.
Yes. So anyway, that's why performance has been the thing, and you
Yeah.
do see, like Skylar's saying, all these engines trying to implement these like visual scripting solutions, because not everybody who works on games is a software developer.
Right.
In fact, a lot of them aren't. They have creative visions for stuff. They don't know how to code. And so Unreal and Unity have been working on these like node-based drag and drop kind of logical things.
Now,
which
our studio's under the philosophy that even if we develop something in the drag and drop language, we should eventually convert it to code and just make it cleaner and more flexible. But I think a lot of studios don't necessarily do that, and they probably end up biting themselves later because it probably is a lot more work later to adapt these things.
Well, and we come from our experience in the software industry has led us to not only be able to implement some of these things easily and understand why you want to do them, but we've also literally lived through the code equivalent of the visual blueprint alternative, like shortcomings. You know what I mean? Like the shortcomings of those things we've experienced in code in other projects. And so I just wouldn't expect, for people who use those kinds of things, they're just doing the best with the amount of knowledge they've got many times. They can't.
True.
They haven't lived through the pains of not having a nicely isolated, response. And they have a big. Why it sucks to have a monolithic, huge fucking blueprint that does everything. Anyway.
Yep.
So.
Well, anyway, that's
the
answer to Potatoes' question. So where can people find us if they want to either talk to us about Primality or yell at us about programming languages?
You can talk to us at KO Koala. Okay, go to KOKoalaentertainment.com, and there you have links to all our social media, especially our Discord.
Woo!
That's where you should talk to us. If you also want to be cool like Potatoes and ask us questions in Koalatea Time, get access to the Minecraft patron realm that I've been streaming recently. Get 10 to 15% off of merch depending on your tier. Get free stickers every 3 months. Get free merch every 6 months. If you're koala, you get a shit ton, including some rather spicy behind the scenes posts recently.
Recent posts revealing the dev backlog. If you want to see.
Yeah, if you literally want to see our backlog and what we were doing.
There are many redacted things, just warning. This isn't like a fake, OnlyFans teaser or something. We're telling you that what you're going to get when you buy it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, for now they're redacted. As time goes on, less and less will be redacted.
Very
It'll
true.
be more and more exciting.
Very true.
Anyway, yes, thank you so much to our patrons, including Josh, who just joined yesterday. Thank you guys so much for your support. And find us. Also, we always do Discord. We always do Discord giveaways. We always do Instagram giveaways. Oh my God, just
next week we will have a guest on the pod, or 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. On
14th.
On the 14th, we're gonna have a guest on the podcast, and when we have guests, we do a ton of giveaways. So make sure you keep the 14th available so you can watch us talk to Kira from EGD. No spoilers.
CEO Kira, let's go.
And make sure to place your bets now on how many times Anthony calls her Kyra.
Oh, I know. I'm trying. I don't know what the fuck, dude. It's like there are a few words that just get stuck in my head in the wrong way.
It's hard, and then you gotta rewire the brain.
Kira.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We will talk to you on Monday.
See ya.
Bye.